Raise the minimum wage to help workers take home more pay. Now, that's what Democratic leaders are calling for, but some at Forbes say, we need to kill the minimum wage altogether, and that's how to pump up all of our paychecks and help the most poor. That's the flip side. Here to explain how it works, Mike Ozanian, Rich Karlgaard, and John Rutledge, along with Dennis Neal, Leah Goldman, and Quentin Hardy, who I'm sure get along just perfectly well. But first, Mike, make your case.
Like all forms of socialism, David, the minimum wage destroys jobs. It destroys the economy. By latest accounts, the recent hike in the minimum wage, the last time it happened, took over 200,000 jobs out of the economy.
So how would killing the minimum wage help everybody?
By killing the minimum wage, you actually allow the market to decide what people get paid, and it prevents companies from having to raise prices in order to support the
Leah, I'm sure you agree.
No, it makes no sense. The argument is asinine. If you eliminate the minimum wage, there's always someone willing to work for less. Isn't this the whole problem, the immigration crisis? This is the problem. You eliminate the minimum wage and you've condemned an entire group of people. And we're not talking about high school kids flipping burgers for a few extra bucks on the side. We're talking about working families, working parents.
Rich Karlgaard, what do you think?
You know, my heart is with the people who want to raise the minimum wage. The problem is that this is another triumph of good liberal intentions that would have no consequence at all, and probably a negative one, as Mike pointed out. Because the thing that everybody's missing is that nobody, companies are not going to hire more people at $7.15 an hour. They're going to hire fewer people. You're going to have more unemployment if it goes to $7.15.
Quentin, most economists do make that, even liberal economists like Paul Samuelson make that same argument.
I'm not sure you see much of a relationship there. The minimum wage has gone without a raise for the longest time in its history. The minimum wage in real dollar terms is the lowest it's been since 1950. This is unbelievable. There have been all these raises and lowers in the economy, and you don't see that direct relationship. I'll tell you where this is politically powerful, though, and where the Democrats really have something going. Minimum wage hasn't raised. Average family incomes in this country, all the way from the minimum wage, they haven't raised either.
John, you buy it?
Great story for them.
Minimum wage raising is good politics and bad economics. Young, untrained workers are imprisoned by the minimum wage. It makes it illegal for a company to hire them and train them in an apprenticeship until they can produce value. One of the reasons the economy is growing is because the real minimum wage has been declining.
Dennis?
I'll tell you what, this eliminating the minimum wage makes such great economic theory, but then human beings get in the way. So I'll tell you what, why don't we create even more jobs by eliminating the laws against employing children? Let's let children work in factories. That's a great thing.
So, Mike, is that what you're calling for, just elimination of all the rules and regulations that help workers?
No, when it comes to the wage, actually, Quentin makes my case. He points to the fact that the minimum wage hasn't been raised in a long time. Well, guess what? Over the last 15 years, we've had the greatest economic prosperity in this country in our history.
That has nothing to do. That's a red herring. If you're going to tie
herring.
You're tying
prosperity
it.
Is a red
every
herring?
week it changes on the topic what you're willing to attribute the job growth and all that stuff.
No, it's always free markets and capitalism.
Now it's the minimum wage. That's ridiculous. Even the
Hold on. Go ahead, Leah. Leah, go ahead.
Even the CEO of Walmart, which is one of the biggest hirers, the biggest employers of minimum wage workers, said it's time to raise the minimum wage.
Rich Karlgaard, go ahead.
Well, the Walmart CEO is probably just looking for political cover. If you really want to raise the living standards of the working poor, you've got to get it at the root level. You've got to improve education. You've got to break the public school monopoly and teach kids something that's actually useful in the workplace.
Dennis?
For Walmart to say, oh, they really ought to raise the minimum wage. Hey, Walmart, let the free market side go ahead and raise the pay you pay your employees. Then you don't need the government to do it. But if you don't have a minimum wage, let's face it, there are going to be thousands of companies out there who are going to rip off their employees even worse than they do now. I think this is a Forbes plot. We're worried about the minimum wage law because if you look at how long our reporters work and how much we pay them, we might be in violation.
Dennis, Walmart doesn't care if the minimum wage is raised because they can afford to pay it. Their smaller competitors, the mom and pop shops,
You're right.
they can't.
You're right. There's no way you can have this discussion without conceding that small businesses would be hurt. But you know what? By and large, large companies like McDonald's, like Walmart, employ the bulk of the minimum wage.
Hey, Rich, what about the argument made by Leah that illegal immigrants would come in and take up a lot of jobs that would be lost because of a raising of minimum wage?
Well, I think I'm pro-immigrant, but what we need to do is not subsidize immigrants by allowing them not to learn English. This lowers their productivity. This makes it hard for them to get a job. Look, I have one piece of advice for my liberal friends here. Tip more. Remember when Al Gore gave $353 to charity in 1997 on his tax returns? Liberals talk a good game. Tip more, give more.
What in the heck are you talking about? I thought we were talking about the minimum wage. Look, the fact is, workers get exploited. Unions came along to stop it. Unions don't care about the cheapest jobs down at the bottom of the rung. There's no one to protect these workers except government, perhaps.
Unions want the minimum wage raised, Dennis, because that's what they base their union wages on.
Okay, we got to leave it